All right, welcome back. Let's talk about constructors. Constructors are basically functions within a class that allow us to create objects with specified attributes by passing in values as arguments. So, as you can see here, we have a class called cat, and we have a couple attributes. We have the cat's name, we have the cat's fur color, we have the cat's age, and we have a Boolean value to determine whether or not they're internet famous. Now, if this looks a little bit confusing to you guys, I highly suggest that you go back to the video title objects and classes, because that is where I defined the whole class called cat and basically just did everything here. But this is a more simplified and condensed version of what we did back in the previous episode. So if you recall back in the last video, whenever we wanted to assign a cat name, color, age, and internet famous value, we had to go into our main function and assign it separately here. But with a constructor, what we can do is basically automatically assign these values without needing all these lines. So let's go into our class, and this is the part where the new stuff starts coming in, so pay attention. So under our public access modifier, we want to create a constructor for the class cat. Whenever you want to make a constructor, it is very important that you name it the same name as the class that you're making the constructor for. In this case, cat with an uppercase C as always. That is the syntax for it. It's never going to change. Always use the same name as the class, followed by a set of parentheses and curly brackets. And yeah, this is basically a constructor with no arguments. However, let's go even further. We want to assign values whenever we call in this cat function, right? We want a name, we want a color, we want an age, and we want the internet famous values. So in order to do that, we want to pass in string name, string color, int age, and Boolean is internet famous. So this is basically a constructor for the cat class that accepts values for the name, for the color, for the age, and the Boolean value is internet famous. But we're not exactly done yet. Whenever we have arguments passed into a constructor, we want to also make sure that the compiler knows, like, hey, whatever the user puts in here in these parameters, assign that to these attributes here. And you'll see what I mean in a second. But whenever we have these arguments the same name as the attributes up here, we have to put this followed by an arrow, name, set equal to name. And we basically do this for all the arguments. So we'll do this color set equal to color, this age set equal to age, this, and it is internet famous. I really wish I didn't make this variable this long, but we're rolling with it. Is internet famous. And also, I did spell that wrong. Okay, there we go. Little spelling mistake there. So basically what this allows us to do, it tells the compiler, hey, this local variable name, set that equal to the attribute name. And then it's saying this local variable color, set that equal to the attribute color. And this local variable age, set that equal to the attribute age. This local variable internet famous, set that equal to the attribute is internet famous. Now, why do we do this? Well, when we go into the main function, instead of creating a cat and assigning the variables separately, we can just call in our constructor. So this is kind of similar, the same way we call in, we want our cat one of the cat class, but instead of ending it off there, we pass in arguments. So we want the cat's name to be Whiskers, right? Just like before. And we'll just pass in the same arguments. So we'll have Whiskers, and I think his fur color was black. And then we'll have, I think he was 6 years old, if I remember correctly. And he was definitely not internet famous, so we set that equal to false. So we basically utilize our cat constructor. We passed in the name Whiskers. We passed in the color black. We passed in the integer 6 for his age. And then we passed in false because he's not internet famous. So let's see out. And let's see if we get the same thing that we did before. So we want to see out the cat name. See out cat1 dot age. We see out cat1 dot color. We see out cat1 dot is internet famous, which will return 1 or 2 because 1 is true. I mean 1 or 0 because 1 is true and 0 is false. Let's also get some new lines in here as well, just for readability. That is the wrong slash. No, that was actually the right slash. I just didn't put the single characters here. If you look, it's 3 in the morning, so just pardon the syntax here. All right, so new lines for everything. Okay, so let's just go over what we did so far. So we created a constructor that accepts a name, a color, an age, and a Boolean value for is internet famous. And we told the compiler that, hey, these local variables, set that equal to the attributes here. Kind of like how we did in the main function when we set the attributes equal. Well, we just doing it here now inside of our constructor. Then we called the constructor. We named our cat cat1, and we passed in whiskers for name. We passed in black for the color. We passed in 6 for his age, and we passed in false for whether or not he's internet famous. Now we're going to see out those values to see if we made our constructor correctly. All right, let's run this code. And Windows is telling me that this little itty bitty C++ file is a virus, but we're going to ignore Windows. So yeah, okay, it ran. We have whiskers, 6, black, and 0 for false on whether or not he is internet famous. Okay, so I can already tell that you guys are probably looking at this part and thinking it's a little bit jarring or confusing. Another way that you can actually set this up, and this is the way I prefer to do it. This is like the default way, but the way I like to set it up is you can actually rename these arguments to whatever you want and then assign it that way. So here's what I mean. So instead of putting like this with the arrow and all this syntax that you've probably never seen before, you can rename this to, and I'm just gonna, usually you want to pick descriptive names, but I'm just gonna say A, B, C, D for now. And instead of like doing the whole this arrow, blah, 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 you can just set name to A, color to B, age to C, and then internet famous to D. And then what's gonna happen is these values that you pass in your main function will be assigned to A, B, C, D respectively, and the compiler will know like, okay, so string name is now A, string color is now B, age is now C, and internet famous is now D. And we know what the ABC is because we pass it in here. In this case, whiskers is A because we have it at the first. Black is B, 6 is C, and Boolean is D. I mean, false is D. And then we assign it here. So this is the way I like to set it up, but it's up to you. Whichever one makes sense to you. Some people like to do it like this because it's just kind of, it's a little bit more English. It's telling the compiler, hey, this name will be set to name, this color will be set to color. But I'm not a big fan of that. I like the other way. And just to show you guys, so you guys don't think I'm lying to you, we can run this again and it'll just run the same. Whiskers, 6, black, 0. So yeah, sometimes you'll see a constructor set up like this. Sometimes you'll see like the whole this with the arrow operator and stuff like that. It basically does the same thing. Just read the arguments, kind of read what's being passed in, and try to decipher whether or not, the values are getting assigned to the attributes. And that's basically how a constructor is usually set up. So let's create another cat. Let's create a cat2 using our constructor. So we put the class name followed by an identifier, in this case cat2, then parentheses, and then we're passing in the value. So we're passing in string A, string B, integer C, and Boolean D. So 2 strings. Well, we'll just do Zoe. And then another string for the fur color. We'll do calico. And another string for the age. No, another integer for the age. Sorry. and then we'll just do 11, and then a Boolean value, true or false. We'll do true this time. And now instead of seeing out cat1, let's just see out cat2's attributes. So we'll change all of these to cat2. And this should print out, we're expecting Zoe, Calico, 11, 1. So let's run this. Yep, Zoe, 11, Calico, 1. I messed up the order, but you get the point. Let's create another cat just for practice. So we'll put in the class name, the unique identifier name, cat3, and then we'll create Billy. We'll make him white. He is 3 years old, and he is not famous, so we'll just set that equal to false. And let's change the see outs so that we see out cat3's attributes. And this should give us Billy 3 white 0. Billy 3 white 0. All right, let's use our constructor one more time. And this is why we like constructors, because remember back in the previous video, whenever we wanted to assign a value, we did all that extra stuff. Cat, for dot name set equal to Miranda. Like it was just too much. Why do that when we have our constructor here? This is why we have constructors, and this is why constructors are very important for classes. Because if we wanted another cat, if we wanted to make another cat named Miranda, we just do cat4, then we put the name Miranda, and then we make her brown. I've never seen a brown cat before, now that I think about it. 5 years old, and then we'll make her internet famous. And boom, just like that. We don't need to assign no values. We just call in our cat constructor, we pass in the values. And if we want to see these attributes, then we just see out cat4.age, cat4.name, cat4.color, cat4.internetfamous. Run this code, and boom. We just created 4 cats in like the span of 2 minutes. Let's create another cat just for practice. Let's call in our cat constructor. So what name we got? Let's just do Cameron. Let's do a cat based on me. Cameron is 21. That's a really old cat. Sorry, we're gonna make him a yellow cat. I don't know. 21, really old cat. And then he's famous. So we'll set that equal to true. Now we have cat 5 named Cameron. His fur color is yellow. He is 21 and he is internet famous. So we'll return 1. So let's do cat5.name, cat5.age, cat5.color. And boom. Cameron 21, yellow 1. So we just created 5 cat objects, all with unique attributes using the cat constructor here. This little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines of code allows us to create 5 objects within a blink of an eye. That is why constructors are so important. That is how you make a constructor. Now, for practice, I want you guys to create a class called dog. Give it some attributes, maybe name, color, age, and you don't have to make a boolean. I just want to try out booleans because we don't see those a lot. But give it some attributes, and then create a dog constructor that accepts arguments, and then assign that to the attributes, and then print those out after creating a couple dogs. I want you guys to practice that. I'll put this code in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.